When I read the account of the Dread Pirate Robert being arrested, who was as far as we know, one alleged to be the creator of the Silk Road or one of the many creators. When I read about it and read about the hit that he apparently put out in Bitcoin, for me, being in the media, I just thought, I can't even believe 20% of this. Just because it sounds like it's such in the interest of the US government or governments worldwide to make it look bad.
Well, we now know that some of the most nefarious activity occurring on the Silk Road was by the two DEA agents, who have now both pled guilty and are facing very stiff sentences for not only stealing money, but of course the actual hit was orchestrated by a DEA agent, really? A rogue DEA agent.
Oh, to incriminate or just for his own reasons?
He stole more than $500,000 from the Silk Road for his own pocket.
Okay. So that story is already being discounted.
Well, it's not being discounted. Well, Russ Ulbricht is in jail, regardless. But in the end, the most nefarious, most corrupt character in all was a drug cop. No surprise there.
What's your read on all of that? What's your read on the closing of the Silk Road, all of those pieces?
I can't comment on the case itself or the closing of the pieces, primarily because I had some involvement as an invited expert witness on the side of the defense to provide expert testimony about some of the evidence, and that's still pending in appeal, so I can't talk about that. However, I think it's important to understand the motivation behind why was the Silk Road so popular? Why does an online marketplace for drugs gain traction? And why is it that the day after the Silk Road was shut down, 20 more appeared in its place? And when those were shut down, 20 more appeared in their place. And they're proliferating. Why is that? And there's a really simple answer to that. You can't get stabbed over TCP/IP. And so if you're involved in a drug addiction, if you suffer from addiction, and that is a health issue, not a law enforcement issue. And we don't treat it like that in our society. The problem is that the worst part of a drug addiction is that you also get exposed to this enormous risk of violence because you have to engage with a black market and with street criminals whose only reason for existence, or the function that makes them exist, is the fact that because the substance is illegal, it makes it extremely expensive and fuels this enormous black market. Just like Prohibition created the mobsters in the United States, and organized crime blossomed under alcohol prohibition and created enormous amounts of corruption. The black market in drugs and treating addiction as a law enforcement issue instead of a health crisis causes corruption to blossom, causes corrupt DEA cops to be soliciting hits, causes all of this violence and cartels and things like that. So for the people who are addicted, who arguably are victims, right? That we may see them as criminals in some case, but effectively they are victims.
And they weren't all drug addicts. I mean, they would sell marijuana.
Hey, I know investing in crypto is scary. It takes a real leap of faith because there are so many scams, rug pulls, and bad actors out there. It's a dangerous business, which is why 95% of people lose all their money. Well, that's why I created the London Real Investment Club, so you can access the hottest deals on the planet and use the crypto bull market to create the generational wealth that you deserve. Join my team of over 100 people from around the world that are making millions of dollars behind the scenes investing in blockchain, AI, Web3 games, DeFi, Bitcoin, and more. Don't miss out. Click the link below to book a call with one of my team now. But hurry, this bull market will end soon.
I know investing in crypto can be scary. That's why you gotta join the investment club. Pull the trigger. Let's do this.
Marijuana, they would sell psychedelics and other types of drugs. It's not necessarily the typical Class A addict that was online.
Well, those distinctions are whitewashed, absolutely. In fact, the majority of it was that. They also sold cigarettes because they want to avoid the tax, and they sold alcohol because they want to avoid the tax. So many of the addictive substances. But the bottom line is that for addicts, the real issue of violence is solved by an online marketplace, because now you can't get stabbed over a website. And that's why these things are popular, because they address one of the fundamental problems with black markets, which is violence.
Right.
That doesn't mean I'm endorsing them. I'm just looking at the realistic issues here. And so
we had a guest on named Jamie Bartlett who wrote a book called Inside the Digital Underworld. He's a British guy. He's fascinating. And he went into the Silk Road and found out it was one of the best peer-reviewed, accountable marketplaces there were. And from what I hear, that's true. It had a lot of feedback. It was kind of the Amazon of that, and you could get some of the best quality and the best repeated business out there. So not only did you save the violence, but you actually ended up getting a great product and great customer service.
Absolutely. In fact, one of the interesting things about it is that it used escrow services, right? Meaning it would take the funds, put them in a controlled account until the buyer and seller could agree, like eBay does with PayPal, right? And allow for dispute resolution. Essentially what that is a contract-based solution to what is normally addressed with violence in a black market. Right? You don't cheat your dealer, and your dealer doesn't cheat you because someone's going to get hurt.
Right.
And when you solve that with essentially a smart contract, a technological solution, it makes for a very efficient marketplace, just like it does on eBay. If you go into a black market to buy a secondhand television and you're dealing with unscrupulous people, you could be resolving that dispute with violence, but instead you use eBay and PayPal and dispute resolution to do that. And there's nothing different when the product is narcotics. It's just that the chance of violence goes up. So the Silk Road actually it offered solutions to a market where there was demand. We have to accept that and understand why that is the case. And obviously, my position is that what this points to, which I think a lot of countries are beginning to realize, is that these things need to be treated as a health crisis, not as a law enforcement issue. Because in the end, you can't solve the health crisis, you only end up corrupting the law enforcement.
Investment Club. Today, I consider it the best investment that I've ever made. We get 4 projects presented a week by their associated CEOs. Personally, I'm completely blown away by the quality of these projects, and I know of nowhere else where I would be given this same opportunity. Each week that passes, I feel more appreciative of the fact that I'm a member of this group. The vibe was just tremendous. Everybody's on the same wavelength. We just clicked. Everybody listened to each other, enjoyed their company. It was just magical. Take action. Don't take my word for it. Due diligence you need to do. And I really hope that someday down the road I see you in the club. It far exceeded expectations, without question.